For being here with me today. As I said, I always enjoy talking to you. You're welcome to join me anytime here, too, at 877-ROAM, 777. I don't know if you've heard this story. I thought this was kind of cool, and I thought I would talk to some of the coordinators of this. We've all heard of flash mobs, right? You ever see those things? If you go on YouTube and you type in flash mob, you'll see them showing up at Grand Central Station or in malls or different places doing all sorts of stuff. There's a very interesting movement taking place in Buffalo, New York right now, where a lot of parish churches are being closed because of consolidation. And that's a struggle for a lot of people. You know, if you have your own parish, it's a small parish, you see it shutting down. It's a tough thing. Bishops have got to do what they have to do for the vibrancy of the community. Well, parishioners in the Diocese of Buffalo, they're using social network now to target one particular parish. You know, they focus one church a month, then they all agree to go to Mass there on a particular Sunday. And it happened a couple times now. They've been getting just unbelievable crowds. You know, hundreds of people show up into a church, well, that would normally be empty on a Sunday morning. Joining me now to talk about this is Alan Oberst. He is he's one of the organizers of that Buffalo Mass Mob. He lives in Buffalo, and you can check him out at buffalomassmob.wordpress.com. That's the website to learn more about it. He was actually raised in a Protestant church and became Catholic 3 years ago, and it's great to have him. Hey, Alan, congratulations on your journey to the Catholic faith. Thanks for joining me.
Well, Drew, it's an honor to be with you and your listeners.
Yeah, it's amazing what you are doing. I'm curious about it. You know, I've seen flash mobs. I always thought they were kind of cool. You know, some of whether they're singing Christmas carols or doing something that entertains the general public. You decided to go ahead and to use this same kind of strategy, I guess, to do a couple things. One, bump up, I guess, church attendance, and I guess if several hundred people show at church, it also helps that particular struggling parish's bottom line. Give me your take. Where did the idea originate, and what are the fruits of it?
Well, here in Buffalo, we've had a lot of focus on promoting local business. And a friend of mine here started a thing called the Buffalo Cash Mob, which was sort of a takeoff on flash mobs. And it was a concept that took off and spread around the country. There are now cash mobs in cities all over, and it was invented right here in Buffalo. And another friend of mine has done blogging, promoting some of the old churches, especially in Buffalo's old Polish neighborhood. And he had done something a couple years ago that he called a Facebook mob, or a Facebook mass, where he invited people to one of those churches via Facebook, and it was very well received. So he put one thing together with another, and several of us got together and decided to launch the Buffalo Mass Mob, not really knowing, well, really what would become of it. And it's taken hold, and we now have had interest in, I would say, a dozen cities around the country have formed their mass mobs, and we've had publicity around the world. That's amazing.
That's super cool. I love the idea that it's not just Buffalo now. You got people all across the country saying, hey, I love this idea. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, well, are these people like the Rainbow Sash who are coming in to disrupt Mass? This is very respectful, right? This is actually a way to build attendance and to pray together, to build community, and to of course, I'm assuming, help the bottom line. What are the fruits of what you're doing? What are you seeing there?
Well, it's really all of those things, and we've had people coming back to some of our urban parishes,
I love it,
which is our focus. And, Buffalo here is a classic Rust Belt, Great Lakes city, and, you're there in one of the Great Lakes states, and you know how the church developed in these cities where, migrants came from Europe, moved in to work in the industries. The churches boomed. You'd build a new church in the next neighborhood or a new church down the block. And then over time, industries moved out, people moved out to the suburbs, people forgot their roots, and you had these struggling urban parishes. So we've had these places that are serving in the communities that most need to be served, but they're struggling with their finances, they're struggling with attendance, they're struggling to keep up their buildings.
But sometimes parishes have to close, though, don't they? I mean, this was a struggle in the city of Philadelphia. They had closed a lot of parishes. They consolidated a lot of them. A lot of those were inner city type of parishes, and in some respects, it's because they don't have the Catholic population there anymore. A lot of people began moving out of the city, and they just financially were not viable. Do you think this is a good? I mean, how do you discern what parish you should do this for, and whether or not it's a means of showing that there's still life in that community?
Well, a couple of things on that. Here in Buffalo, we've had no shortage of parish closings. And we almost think that that's a trend that's played out, and we think things may be going back in the other direction.
Cool.
We hope and pray. One of the churches that's currently up as a candidate for our next mass mob was actually closed and reduced in status to something called an oratory, meaning that it wouldn't have weekly mass, but it would be open occasionally. And that has now resumed its full status as a parish.
Interesting.
And we're hoping to move the trend in the other direction because, like we say, these are the communities that really need to be served. And we're hoping in part to stop this trend of parishes simply being abandoned.
Good for you.
Sometimes that happens because it just seems to the hierarchy in the diocese that that's the easiest thing to do. But we need to reach out and find new ways to rebuild community at these places.
All right, good stuff. I'm glad you're doing it. My guest, Alan Oberst, they behind a big movement right now, folks, where they have these what they call mass mobs. People show up in mass attendance to parishes that would normally have almost no one there. And now they're catching on all around the country, taking a look at the benefits of this. What's the motive behind it? And we'll take a few of your calls. I only have them for a couple moments. You want to join us toll free, 877-ROAM, 777. Dan in Illinois, good afternoon.
Hi, guys. I was calling just to find out, have these parishes benefited financially so that they would stay open? Because I know I vacation in Wisconsin with my in-laws, and we go to this wonderful church, St. Mary Mount Carmel in Fancher, Wisconsin. It's a beautiful church, but it's in the middle of nowhere, and I always worry next year I'm going to come back and it's not going to be there.
Interesting. So is the diocese seeing the financial benefit from this, Alan?
Well, in both of the cases where we've had mass mobs so far, and we're currently planning our third one, and yes, this has spread amazingly just based on us having done this twice in Buffalo. We found that the offering baskets were full, and that the people taking the offering, their eyes were just as big as saucers. And in one case, they had to go back and make another round of collections.
Cool beans.
They had never seen collections like that.
Wow.
It's especially important in these urban churches where you have high heating bills in the winter, and every little bit in the basket helps.
Well, let me ask you too, and Dan, thanks for the call. You brought up a great question. How do we, if somebody listening right now says, look, I've got a parish that's struggling, we have very low attendance, or we could, a flash mob would be great. It might just help them bridge the gap through these cold winter months or wherever they may be. Is there somebody who coordinates all this? I mean, how does this work, and what will they find at buffalomassmob.wordpress.com? I mean, where can they get info, and how do they coordinate these?
Well, we've had people emailing us from around the country, and there's an email address. Well, there's an email plug-in on the Mass Mob webpage, so someone can send us an email. What we're looking at doing, because we've had so many inquiries, is putting together like a frequently asked questions list and getting that out to people. But the interesting thing with social media is it's almost like a do-it-yourself.
Right.
And we've had, typically what happens in communities where people have been interested in this is you'll have someone who has social media experience, and they also have a burden for this issue.
Yeah.
And the two and two together, and before you know it, somebody's off and running. It really doesn't take a lot. We have a Twitter account, at Buffalo Mass Mob, a Facebook page, and a WordPress blog, which is probably the easiest kind of blog to start. And then we've been off and running.
Well, rock and roll. You keep up the good work, okay?
Well, we're looking forward to it, and who knows where this will lead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, already you're seeing the fruits of it. It's spreading across the country, and I love that. Whatever we can do for the church is great. I'd love to talk to you more. I'm up against the clock right now, but love to hear your conversion story, how you went from Protestantism to Catholicism. That's got to be a journey. So, hey, pray for us. Pray for us, Alan, will you?
Anytime. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. I'm Drew Mariani. Short break, 17 minutes after the hour. When we come back.